Okay, Atia, you can.
Coach, just your thoughts on the game performance
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm very happy that we got 5 points. I think, again, times we looked like the best team in the competition. But, I mean, I know what you're going to ask me is how do we leak 5 tries, And we leak them, I don't think it's a work rate thing. I don't think it's a system thing. I don't even think it's a game understanding thing. It's just sometimes we just do things which help the opposition get into the place where they can score. So if I look at that one, Cameron gets an unbelievable turnover, plays the ball to Ulrich. He almost gets the ball into Kirtley's hands. If Kirtley catches that, he probably runs 80 meters, scores a try, and we go, geez, what a great turnover. We turn it back over, they go and score in the other corner. So, that's the one. Second one is Cameron gets the ball, goes down the short side from a scrum. Emmy's calling for it. We don't execute properly. It goes into touch. They get a line out. They go and score from that line out. But I know what I'm saying is that if Emmy catches that, again, we go, geez, what a great try. What a great... So what I'm thinking is maybe because we get to 30 points up, and we almost think we can score from everywhere, and then we turn the ball over, Yes, the maul try would obviously be an area where we've got to look at. I mean, they scored an easy maul try just before half-time. But generally, I don't think it's a work rate thing. I just don't think it's a system thing. It's just an understanding about where we are in the field and just being a bit more accurate with the execution of understanding, But as I said, if Emmy scores a 90-meter try and Kirtley gets through that hole and runs an 85-meter try, then we look like everything's 100%. So it's a difficult one. But we'll maybe bring in something at training where we can just call it game understanding, game management, maybe turnover control. Maybe just bring something into our training where we can consciously understand what we have to do.
I mean, that game management and streetwise element, you've been hammering on it for the last couple of weeks. How key will it be getting it right?
Yeah, I think that's why it's called coaching. You can't just say something and expect next week everything falls into place. And that Benetton group of players, I just spoke to their coaches last night. 24 of them play for Italy, 24 of their group. 24 of those players, therefore, then play the All Blacks, the Springboks, England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland. That's the kind of grounding and school fees they're paying every season. So they can only get better. They can only... with that kind of competition and that kind of competitive testing that they get at that level, is going to make them better. They're going to get better and better and better. But I also, have to compliment. You think about it, there are not many teams that beat Italy by 50 points and score 50 points, So to go there and score 50-something points against them means that we're doing something very, very well. Because, as I said, some countries haven't run 50 points up against that group of players either.
Okay, that's all from my side. Your guys' ability to score points, is it something you're comfortable with going to the knockout stages? At times, that you can't always outscore teams. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, that's how you win competitions. I know the diehards, and I was one of those. You need to defend well too. Defense wins championships. You ask any, American football coach, you still got to defend. The one criteria which is constant for any competition is the team that scores the most points is always near the top. In other words, it's either somewhere in the top 3. So if you look at the glory days of the Auckland Blues, or the glory days of the Brumbies, or the glory days of Toulouse, or if you look at the glory days of Crusaders, generally those teams would have scored lots and lots of points every Saturday. And then it makes it difficult for the opposition team, because if they score 35, like today we scored 50, you've got to score 51 to beat us. Now that's again how you create pressure for opposition teams as well. So, but also I still want to be tougher on the players about not allowing teams to score easily against us. And easily either through our mistakes or through situation where we put ourselves in situations, but that will come with time.
Jake, congratulations, first of all. Very good performance, obviously. But, I mean, you'd rather be winning 60-35 than 20-15, wouldn't you?
Correctly, Ken. You can never underestimate to score some of those tries we scored, and the way our shape of our attack was good. And I just said it now again. Teams that win those competitions, the one thing that we're lacking is the edge on defence, and I'm talking about from the ruthlessness of not allowing teams to score points against us. The one thing that is very, very pleasing is that all the top teams in any competition, as I said, you look at Toulouse or La Rochelle when they're dominating the French, or Clermont when they were dominating the French championships, or you look at Crusaders in the glory days of their Super Rugby campaign. You have to be a team that can score 30 points every weekend. And I don't know what top of my head, but I would think that our home record in terms of points scored must be close to 40 points on average. Now that's a good place to be if you can score 40 points, in this league every game that you play. And I'm talking about at Loftus.
Just in terms of last week to this week, do you feel though that there was a bit of an improvement in that second half? And I'm not even looking at the scoreboard. I'm just talking about in terms of that feeling like you're still in control of it.
Correct.
I mean, last week there was a feeling that, jeepers, you might actually lose.
Correct.
But this week, I mean, did you feel that it's okay, we're still in control? You're annoyed about 5 tries?
Yeah. No, Ken, when you tell me what happened last week, we almost looked like we were deers in the headlights, and we looked as though we were panicking, and we went away from understanding that they needed to chase the game. Now, we were in exactly the same situation, and we continue to score points. I mean, last week I felt, I don't know if they did it consciously, but I felt we started to defend 37-10 as a result, and that's why it almost came back to bite us. This week, even though we maybe leaked 1 or 2 tries at the end, and I look now, we leaked a try in the 64th minute, and we leaked the next try in the 75th minute. So again, there's a lot of changes. I had some reserves on. The cohesion's not the same, but I can tell you that there were blocks there where we had much more control. The one maul where we mauled a week ago, we would have played off the top there and tried to play sevens rugby against them. And that just shows that they understood they needed to almost tighten things up, which you saw today. It looked a lot more like a team that was aware of what caught them last week.
Just on the positive side, though, that opening try, I mean, that's pretty much the template what you want, isn't it? Good kick into their territory, force the knock on, dominant scrum, and then go wide. And
then penalty, and then kick it in the corner, and then maul try. So I'm so glad you said that, Ken, because that was one of the things we spoke about. Last week we were pounding on their line for about 4 minutes, and then we never got any points. And the first time they got into our half, they did a run-around play around the front. We were 7-0 down. And part of what I explained to the players is it's a little bit like a golfer. You can't play 3 holes or 4 holes par, and think you're going to win the competition, because Tiger Woods will go birdie, 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 and that means you're 3 shots behind. So what I said to them is, who knows, maybe the first and only time, or the only time you're going to get an entry into their 22, and the only time you're going to get a chance to finish them off might be in the first minute. And I think a lot of players would think that it's a little bit like boxing. You sort of spar with someone and you get to the 9th, 10th round, and then you look for the knockout punch. Who knows, maybe the knockout punch or the vulnerability of your opposition was right in front of you in the first round. So that's why I was also pleased. I mean, it was almost the first 4 or 5 entries we got into their 22. We scored 3 times, which again shows that lesson learned from last week as well.
Just lastly, from me, Jake, you got a lot of return from your kicking game today. I'm so really pleased with that.
Well, it is altitude, and to be fair, that is a thing. It's not coincidental that guys like Mornay Steyn and those guys have got such great kicking records, Naaspoorte. And it is a ground where you kick the ball further. It is a ground where kicking is a skill that you can really master. So yeah, I mean it is. It's not again taking nothing away from the players we have here, but any player who's ever played at Loftus knows what kind of value you get from kicking well, and we kicked really well today, especially because our kicks came from different players. You know, it came from Emmy at times, came from Johan Goosen at times, came from Willie Leroux at times. So then what it means is defences are never sure where who's going to be asking him questions. You know, if you worry too much on the left hand side for Willie, then the door opens on the right hand side for Johan Goosen and vice versa. If you think Johan's going to kick and you give it to Willie, then obviously that also opens up the hole. So having a left and a right-footed kicker at our ground is also very important for us.
Sorry, I'm going to take you back. I'm still interested in the why.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah.
And by that I mean, do you look at sort of your aggressive intent to score
Yeah.
as maybe
Yeah.
sort of a tipping point between your attack and your defense,
Yeah.
where you then getting caught because you're so aggressively seeking to attack?
I think it's a bit like that, Sim. And I'm not going to sound like I'm also looking for the why. You know, and what I meant by that is it because we're trying so hard to score these great tries that we create pressure for ourselves, so we almost become the demise of our own ability. So that's one area. Or is it also the fact that we've now played 2 weeks in a row where teams wanted to get 4 tries because they need to get a losing bonus point somehow? And so all of a sudden we've been asked questions by Glasgow and by Benetton based on the fact that they were going to kick in the corner for every single penalty they got. And that in itself means you're going to defend for much longer periods of time and in the danger zone more than you would in a final or semi-final. So when people say to me, can't concede all those points, I very much doubt that any team playing in a quarter-final, semi-final or final is going to kick as many times into the corner. I mean, I doubt that. I just think the nature of the competition isn't like that. When finals come down to the knockout stages, you take every point you can get. So we played, and I look back at those last 2 weeks. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. I mean, Benetton, the way the log is, they needed to get something out of this game. And the one thing that they could push for is 4 tries. I mean, they can't guarantee they keep you, and lose by less than 7, because that's much more difficult than going flat out for 4 tries. And same with Glasgow last week. They did exactly the same thing. So we've probably been tested more in the last 2 weeks because of that defensively than we would have against anybody. There's no ways that teams like that would have played like that in round 1 or round 2.
And so 2 questions in one. With the knockout phase, it's just around the corner. Are you worried? And then if you are, how do you fix it?
Yeah, I'm not worried. I mean, when I say not worried, I mean it like that. It's, again, what I said to Ati, so it's coaching. It's coaching, and it's not a wand. It's not like you wave the wand and next week we become such a fantastic defensive side that no one scores against us. It comes with time, it comes with experience, it comes with cohesion. I talk a lot about cohesion, but there's a study on the amount of hours that people train and play together. And the more they do that, the better the result will be. So when you have a team like Benetton, 24 of them play in blue jerseys for a part of the year, and they play in Benetton jerseys for the other part of the year. That means the training hours of Minicello and Brex at centre it's week after week after week. It's no different to the great sides like the Brumbies that had all those Brumby boys in the Wallaby team, Gregan, Larkham, Mortlock, Joe Roff, whatever. That is what happens to really good teams, is the longer they train together, the longer they play together, the more they spend together from a cohesive point of view, the better they become. So it's not like next week we're off and I have a meeting with them and I go, right, boys, we've got to coach it. We're going to make sure that we create scenarios where we try and get at situations where we're in the same pressure. But and I know, you can't replicate a game in front of a crowd when you need to score or you need to defend in a training session. The pressures are very different. the calls that the players make are very different. It's like line-out throwing. You can get a guy throwing all day at a target, and he looks like a champion. You put him there in the last minute of a game, and he's got to win the line-out to win the test match. It's a very different challenge. So to answer your question, I'm not concerned. I'm excited about the fact that the way we're playing now. Can you imagine if we become the best defensive team in this competition? And I'm talking about over time. It's going to be a very difficult team to beat.
Jake, Harold Foster struggled a bit after his injury, especially of his decision making.
Yeah.
It looks like he's back to his best now, and he combines very well with Kilo. Do you think you've found a combination at centre now to go through to the semis?
Yeah, I don't want to pick the team yet, Chris. I'll be honest. I mean, I think there's some good and bad things about that combination, and I'm saying. But it is one that's now getting a bit more gelled because they're spending time together. I mean, I think you agree with me, David and Stedman, when we had them together, was also very, very dangerous. So what's nice is at least there's different permutations for us. But what I am happy about is that, and that's the interesting thing, because I think defensively over multi-phases and from set piece, we're very strong. And Harold is part of that. You know, Harold stops the first phase and you know, it's very tough when he gets into that breakdown. So that's why I said I'm almost sure it's not a system thing, but he adds value to that. And you know, I don't talk about individual players, but geez, I mean, David Kriel's phenomenal. He plays 12 and then he's man of the match, and I move him to 13 and he looks like the best player on the field again. You know, and that means that, you know, he's obviously contributing to that partnership as well. So I'm not. What I'm trying to say is I'm not sure whether those two will be for every game, but the way it's working now, there's no reason why we won't keep with that combination.
And just the word of Cameron Hanekom.
No, you just got to. It's a wonderful thing you can write this. You know, you can write this today. I went to him and I said, "What's the story?" And he said, "Nee, ek het 'n kopstamp gekry." And I say, "Yes, coach, maar daai toets is moeilik as jy moeg is." So I'm not sure if Paul boys either do any academics or anything, but we're probably going to have to get them fatigued and then do the concussion test. You know.
Yeah, that's the baseline.
Yeah.
Jake, Scott mentioned quite a few times in his commentary that you'd stacked the channels with Hanekom and Foster specifically, and then Hanekom went off. He was very prominent.
Yes.
I'm happy to hear that he's not that injured.
Yes.
And carded very well. My question is more towards the Sharks. We're a little bit, you know, we're going awake at night worrying about the Sharks. Are you concerned about the Sharks? Are you guys ready for them?
I mean, you know, it's one of those games where well, let me put it this way. We want to win the conference too. And that's why there's lots to play for against them. And the one thing we've generally done since I've been at the club is we play really well when we won something. So, you know, the one thing this group of players has done every time we get to a knockout game and it means something, and I say every time, I'm talking about, you know, 90% of the time, we've gone on and won. So whether it was a Currie Cup final against the Sharks twice, or whether it was a Super Rugby unlocked, or whether it was knocking out Western Province, you know, in those derby games as well, we've probably won more than we've lost when we've really needed to play well. But that doesn't mean that the Sharks are going to be easy. I mean, look at that team, guys. You know, I mean, they got big names in that team, and that's why I almost think the Sharks are in the same situation. This is the time where World Cup winners can actually go and win something else. And we know it's a South African thing, is when you've got a chance to win something, it's almost like you find another gear, you know. So what I'm answering is, I just think that it's going to be a situation in the last week where we can win the conference. It's something we want to do. We want to be the best side in South Africa. We were the best side in South Africa for a long time. And we lost that mantle for the last 2 seasons. So, you know, we're going to give them off this week, and I'm talking about to relax at Boxer in training camp, so some guys will be off. I mean, the other guys will be off. And I'm hoping by Monday of the Sharks week that we then reinforce the importance of having a chance to win something, you know. Not that, and I know I've said this to you because you guys are going to say it to me, not that the conference is the thing you want to win, because people don't really remember, but you still want to be the best side in South Africa, and we have a chance against the Sharks to win that game and be the top South African side. So, and we haven't done that for a few seasons.
One more thing, you clearly made a step up from where you were last year.
Guaranteed.
It's falling into place now, in terms of your long-term plan.
Yeah.
Players coming to the club and your signings and players not leaving
Yeah.
and committing to the club.
Yeah, I mean, last year I think we ended 7th. I know the year before we ended 3rd or whatever, but last year we came 7th. I mean, this year the worst we can now come is 4th. So that means it's already a home quarter final. And that's an improvement of where we were this time last year. So we're there. I mean, we're there. We there's always that thing about you can't win the lotto if you don't have a ticket, and we've still got a ticket. And while you've got a lotto ticket, there's hope. Are we where I would like us to be? No. I mean, I'd like us to, and I know you always say if only, but if we had beaten Munster, we'd be top of the log now, and that's the margins of what you sit with. If we'd beaten Munster with a bonus point, we'd basically be definitely 1st or 2nd. And that's how close it is. So, but has there been improvement? There's no doubt in my mind. Have the players grown in this last year? Massively. Massively from and we still got youngsters. We still got youngsters in our group. Kanan's young, Cameron's young. Jan Hendrik, I know he's not playing, but he's still young and part of our group. Ulrich young. So having them sign for another 3 years, all of a sudden the age profile and the sort of experience you get in 3 years' time is over 100 URC games, average age of about 26, 27. That's before we sign anyone else new into our club. And what we're going to do is make sure that every year we get better. So I'm very excited about where we are. And the 4 games we have left, and if it goes according to what it is now, it could be Sharks, Stormers, Glasgow, Leinster. And I really believe that we're good enough to win any of those teams or beat any of those teams. That is the challenge. Whether we can get it right in 4 consecutive weekends is the thing we're probably going to get challenged on the most.
Just on the thing about the defense, fans may also be concerned, but the thing is, if you're scoring a bonus point try after 25 minutes, and it's almost becomes so easy, some of the guys are walking over to a try, that it's almost understandable that the guys won't defend with as much vigor and commitment as, it's a tight game and it's a playoff game. So is that part of the reason also why you maybe not as concerned as maybe some fans would be, because in a different situation of a knockout game, you just defend differently.
Okay, so Ashwa, quickly, I don't think you must worry about our fans. I think you must worry about other fans. So don't stress about the Bulls fans, okay? But what I am going to say to you is exactly, I thought you were in our change room, because that's exactly what our captain said. He says he gives the team his word that when we have to defend and we're not 30 points up, that the mental attitude will be different. It's I want to say it's natural or normal. He's just saying it's something that we're going to have to find, and he thinks we will find it anyway. I think he's right. He's right. I mean, I said it just now, Ashfaq. The last 2 weeks, the teams we've played have kicked into the corner, and they've had many more entries and many more opportunities to test us. And we probably, and quite rightly so, haven't passed that test. So the 2 things are going to happen. One is we won't have as many entries into our 22 because teams will take the points. And secondly, with all the lessons we're learning in these games, I've got no doubt that we will be better by the time the knockout stages come.
Just finally, the fact that you scored 9 tries, that's also perhaps a lesson for the guys to keep on playing, even if it is a playoff game, it's a tight game, because that is what has gotten you to this point. And it's clear that the confidence is there on attack.
Well, again, I'm talking to the converted Ashfaq. The one thing the Stormers have shown every other team is you got to stick to what you do well, and the Stormers have done that for 3 seasons. They haven't gone into their shell. They still run from everywhere. Marnie still offloads. Warwick still offloads. Damien steps and offloads. And it seems as though it's a way in which, well, it doesn't seem. It shows that it's been a way in which you can still win this competition. So there's no reason for us to go away from what's working for us. You're quite right when you say is that hopefully the mental attitude of when it's a do or die defensive set, that we have a little bit more grunt in our defense as opposed to doing it when we're 30 points up. Thanks, guys.